Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about all of the things going on with the playoff. We talked about the Miami Notre Dame debate, the Alabama debate. Should they be in? I tend to believe they should be pretty firmly in, but at the end of the day, we talked about all of that. Now it's time to get into just a little bit of a catch up with all the things that happened this past weekend and a little bit into last week. Again, apologies for a little bit of radio silence there, but let's go ahead and jump into this and let's talk about Army-Navy to start things off. Navy escapes this one 17-16. This game's always incredible. It is one of the best things that we have in the sport, in the world of sports, plain and simple. But it is one of the most incredible things that we get to see. It perfectly represents why this sport is so special, because it's chaotic. It's chaotic as can be in between those white lines, but it is a beautiful, beautiful representation of what these kids are and what they represent. And Navy got to sing second. That's the ultimate honor in this game, and Navy was able to lock it up for a second year, lock up the Commander-in-Chief's trophy for the second year. But this game was insane. It was absolutely ridiculous. There was an INT from both quarterbacks. Blake Horvath felt like he just didn't have hands at certain parts of this game, but only lost one fumble. He fumbled 3 times. Kate Helms fumbled as well, but didn't lose the ball. It was ridiculous. It was all over the place, from what looked like a floater from Donald Trump on the coin toss to a truly ridiculous game from start to finish. But from the moment Blake Horvath threw that INT, he pretty much took over this game. Navy scores the final 10 points of this game, is able to win it. A huge amount of respect to Army for keeping this one close. It's just one of those games that, for whatever reason, will always find a way to deliver, will always find a way to come down to the wire, even in a year where Navy was outpacing Army pretty good. Army was able to really fight and make this one a very, very fun one over there in Baltimore. We had a 4-overtime classic to start off with Bowl Week. The Celebration Bowl happened this weekend in Atlanta. South Carolina State wins 40-38 over Prairie View A&M. Incredible. Just a great, great way to kick off bowl season. South Carolina State was down 21-0 heading into halftime. 10 minutes into the second half, they had come back to tie it. And then it was just a duel to the finish line. Cameron Peters was incredible for Prairie View A&M. Ryan Stubblefield was awesome for South Carolina State. And they were able to squeak this one out in a very, very weird overtime with a missed field goal, with multiple missed two-point conversions. But they find one at the very end and are able to get it done. We'll get more into this FCS playoffs tomorrow when we talk about all of the games. We break down all the games for the playoff this weekend. We'll also break down the games that already happened for the FCS and the ones that are coming up, because some great semifinals and some big-time upsets thus far. North Dakota State no longer in the FCS playoffs after going in minus money to win that thing. The LA Bowl, Boise State gets absolutely rolled by Washington 38-10. This one was ugly, and it was really ugly. When you think about it, if JMU were to lose to Troy, it might have been Boise State in the playoff at the end of this thing. Now, I tend to believe they might have leaned Duke, but I don't know. That would have been a relative toss-up, and that one would have gotten ugly very, very quickly. But at the end of the day, Damon Williams was nearly perfect here. Jonah Coleman did just about whatever he wanted. Denzel Boston was a total mismatch. And 5 INTs from this Washington defense. Maddox Madsen had to hit the bench at a certain point. It was tough. It was tough for Boise State in this football game. A really interesting squad heading into the Pac-12. Obviously going to be a very interesting year for a lot of those teams. They're still in a very good spot, but was not their day on Saturday night. Fernando Mendoza has won the Heisman Trophy. Fernando Mendoza takes home the Heisman, and just an incredible speech. A really, really beautiful thing to hear. The relationship between him and his mother is special. If you have not read her article in Players Tribune, please do. Grab some tissues first, but do that. It is incredible to see that relationship that they do have. And I thought this race should have been closer. I'll put it plain and simple. I thought him and Pavia should have been as neck and neck as just about anyone over the last 10 years has been for the Heisman. But Mendoza kind of won in a landslide. Not a landslide, but pretty comfortably at the very end of this thing. I lean towards Mendoza. If I had a vote in this, it would have been Mendoza 1, Pavia 2, probably Jacob Rodriguez 3. But that's a conversation for another day. At the end of the day, for me, it's Mendoza stepped up. There were 3 massive moments in the Indiana season where things could have gone very wrong, and they didn't. And it was obviously when he threw a pick against Oregon and had to lead them back down the field, did it perfectly, scored a touchdown, took back over that football game. Penn State, you go down late in that football game, you have to drive down the field, make a couple of big time throws to Charlie Becker and then Omar Cooper with an incredible catch on an incredible throw at the end of the game. And then the Big Ten championship. Ohio State is leaning on you. They're a very aggressive team. They're a very intense team. And he makes a massive throw on third down, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, down the field to kind of ice that game away. That's the difference to me. Diego Pavia went on the road to Alabama, had a couple of turnovers, didn't play all that well. Went to Texas, took him 3 quarters to start playing very well in that football game. And also, when everyone throws the stats back in my face, I think they might want to look at how many quarters Fernando Mendoza played in certain games this season. You'll see 3 in a lot of those. So overall, I don't think it should be a stat award, just plain and simple a stat award. I tend to believe Fernando Mendoza deserved to win it. I would have picked Fernando Mendoza had I had a vote. More than happy to have a vote if anyone over there, the Heisman Trophy, is listening. But don't love the way Diego Pavia handled it. I don't think I'm reinventing the wheel with this take. I wouldn't love it if I was an NFL GM, so I can't imagine they did. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with Diego Pavia moving forward. Just can't imagine the last 48 hours for him have made him more desirable on that than he already was. But we'll see what happens there. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza, very deserving. Julian Say and Jeremiah Love deserving to be in New York. A weird year for the Heisman, but to me, not an uninspiring Heisman, not an upsetting Heisman, definitely not a guy I'm worried about in an NFL locker room. For some reason, that was a take. The idea that he would not be accepted by teammates because he fights and cares about his teammates, that's ridiculous in my opinion. But again, we'll see how all this unfolds. We'll see what Fernando Mendoza does. Tend to believe his name's getting called pretty early on or very early on in that NFL draft in April. Utah gets a private equity deal with Otro Capital. They are going to be very interesting to watch. It's over $500 million is what the investment is, and it will essentially kind of create a different entity for Utah Athletics that is a for-profit entity. Not necessarily different from the way that they act right now, but will not be directly under the umbrella. Will be a different entity that will have a different board to it, I guess is probably the best way to put this. This is a dangerous proposition. It's also relatively unavoidable in the way that we're going in college sports, especially college football. They've mismanaged money in this sport for a very, very long time, and now a lot of people are asking them to spend a lot of money. Some teams don't have it, including Utah, and frankly, when they're looking down there in Lubbock and they're thinking that's what we have to compete with, I don't think this is a crazy decision. Now, in practice, what it seems like this is going to look like, and obviously we will get more details, and frankly, we'll get as many details in the actions that are taken by Utah over the next couple of years as anything else, but it seems that Capital is going to have 2 of 9 members on the Utah Athletic Board. They will not be in charge of hirings and firings. They will not be in charge of which players or which teams get the most NIL allotment. They are there to essentially guide. They are there to help with ticket sales and help with concessions and help with making money in the certain places that a lot of athletic departments don't really think about making money in. Let's be totally honest. There are the private equity companies, their job, their sole mission is to get return on investment. That's what they do. That's the way they operate. They operate in dollars and cents if you are in the green or you're in the red. Pretty much simple. That's pretty much it. I question how long they are going to allow it to just work like college sports. Because the way this could work, the way this could go down in an ideal world is they are in that room, they give a couple of cents here and there, they help them make a little bit more money in concessions and all of that type of stuff, but they don't overstep. They don't say, that women's volleyball program isn't quite bringing in the money that we'd like it to bring. That swimming program is in the red a little bit more than it was last year. I think we should probably pull that back and just cut off that sport to make a little bit more money. That's what can't happen. Because here's the reality. They could come in and do absolutely nothing but push money into Utah. They're going to make money out of it. I promise you that. They will make money out of this football program. They will make money out of some other smaller programs that still do pretty good business around Utah. Regardless, they will make money. Will it be enough money? is the ultimate question here, because you're always going to want to make more money. You're always going to want to have a better ROI. You're always going to want to be a little bit further up on the totem pole when it comes to what you're bringing in every year. If they come in and they're willing to provide the capital and they're willing to say, we're going to let college sports be college sports, we just want to be able to help you, guide you through it, and yeah, we'll take a little bit off the top at the end of the year, I think that can work okay. I find it really, really hard to believe that that's going to be the long-term case. Maybe it will be for a couple of years and Utah does incredible things on the football field and everyone's happy. I think there comes a time when maybe they overstep just a little bit and a smaller sport is cut off. Or a smaller sport, at the very least, is not given the resources that they need to compete, and football is given everything they could possibly need. This was unavoidable. That's the reality of this situation, which is very frustrating, but that's where we are. As of right now, the other solution would be nearly doubling tuition at some of these places. I know that sounds crazy, but again, the money mismanagement in this sport and in college sports in general has been truly incredible for a very long time. They're realizing right now that they just need more money to compete, to be able to keep everything going forward. So here's the reality. Every football program is looking for money every which way they can get it. Every football program probably doesn't want to do what Utah just did. A lot of them are going to have to, plain and simple. A lot of them are going to have to lean into this and just hope that these people don't overstep. Hope that these people allow college sports to be what it is. I question that that's going to be the case. So a lot of people were bemoaning this as the end of college football or the end of college sports in general. I hope that's not the case. I hope that is not something that happens, and it won't be for college football. It'll be different. I can absolutely promise you that, and I worry. It is the start of a very slippery slope that can create a whole lot of problems for a whole lot of people playing college sports that aren't football right now, which is a whole lot of people out there. But we'll see what happens over there at Utah. Obviously, we'll know much more as this kind of unfolds and we see the decisions that are being made. Are they invasive? Are they not? Are they overstepping? Are they not? It'll be debated at large, and we will talk about it much more, but I can almost promise you, this is not the last time that you will see this. This is not the last time that we will be talking about something like this in college sports. And then the transfer portal blew up today, and you'll find that it comes right in conjunction with a lot of these guys got their last paycheck on their NIL deals. A lot of these guys had those conversations of what happens next year, what can I get paid, am I a guaranteed starter, all that good stuff that happens around this time of year, and it's blown up today. DJ Lagway is in the portal. He is going to get out of Gainesville. It sounds like Miami, Texas Tech, Baylor, LSU all in on this one. Baylor, his father did go there, so I would not count out Baylor by any means there. I'd probably have Miami at the top, but I do think there's a number of other guys there, like Dylan Raiola entered the portal today. Brendan Sorsby, I think that might be the Indiana quarterback next year, but he enters from Cincinnati. A number of other guys. One interesting name to watch over there from Texas, Leona Lafau, a starting linebacker going into next year, starting linebacker this year right next to Anthony Hill. Very talented player that's walking out of Texas. That's a definite starter for 2026 that will not be on the Longhorns anymore. That's something to watch. I don't know what the situation is there. I don't know if there's a very good offer that came in. I tend to believe that's what's going on, but at the end of the day, he is out the door over there at Austin. Definitely a name to watch there. One name that is not going to enter the portal, it seems, is Lenora Sellers. It sounds like he is going to return to South Carolina for 2026. I don't necessarily love the decision. I love that he's sticking around at South Carolina. I'll be totally honest, I probably would have rolled the dice with the draft. I think the combine numbers would have been absolutely incredible. I think his physical ability would have gotten him drafted higher than he will in 2027. I could be wrong about that. He could have a great year at South Carolina and do some great things. I tend to believe his best shot was taking the opening that he had and going to the 2026 draft and saying, I'm just going to wow them at the combine, and hopefully people will take a chance on me and say, if we can refine that guy, he's going to do incredible things. But there's going to be a lot of names out there. Sam Levitt is out there as well, DJ Lagway. It's going to be a lot of big-time names. Dylan Raiola is entering the portal, as was kind of expected for the last couple of weeks. Regardless, this thing is going to get off the rails really quickly. It's going to get very, very crazy really quickly. Maybe we'll talk about it more on Friday just to give you an idea of where we stand. Overall, we're going to talk about it just about every week moving forward. And then we got to get into the actual window where all this stuff can happen and guys can commit and all that good stuff. it's going to get wild. I can absolutely promise you that, and we'll do our best to keep on top of everything because this quarterback cycle is going to be active as can be, and I think DJ Lagway is going to be at the very center of it. But going to be incredible to watch all of this unfold. Obviously, a big time weekend coming up. We got playoffs starting on Friday with Oklahoma, Alabama, 3 more games on Saturday. We got a lot of coaching news. Michigan getting close to a hire. We'll see how that unfolds. I think still a little bit of work to do there, but I have to imagine they'd love to do that before the turn of the new year. A lot going on in the world of college football. We'll get into all of it as it unfolds tomorrow. We will be back and we'll talk about all the games. We'll talk about my picks for all the playoff games coming up this weekend. We'll give some love to the FCS playoffs, what happened this past weekend, what we got coming up this weekend. We'll give some love to the bowl games going on this week because can't not give love to Bulls schedules. So many things happening in the world of college football. We will talk about it all tomorrow. We'll talk about it all likely on Thursday as well. But again, thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Just Another College Football Podcast. Please do like, subscribe, comment. It means the absolute world to me. Let me know what you think about any of this stuff that we just talked about. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow.